Can you hear me? The little icon above the Litchfield Elementary School still is muted. So I can't hear.
Thank you. Next, we are going to move on. We have no public comments, so we will move on to the adoption of agenda and consideration of consent agenda. I will first see if we have anyone that has any items they wish to pull. Mr. Mikes?
None for me.
Mr. Owens?
None for me.
Ms. Moran?
None. Thank you.
Ms. Wallace?
None for me, thank you.
I don't have any either.
I'll move to adopt the agenda as presented.
I will second.
Having a motion from Mr. Mikes and a second from Ms. Moran, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Mikes?
Yay.
Mr. Owens?
Yay.
Ms. Moran?
Yay.
Ms. Wallace?
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes. Next, we will move on to our discussion items, which will be department survey information and next steps. This will be by Dr. Doozy, who is going to give us a nice, great long presentation.
Good evening, Madam President, governing board members, my admin cabinet, and anyone else that might be tuning in from home. Tonight, I'm here to present our stakeholder. Oh, this is not the right presentation.
Yeah, it seemed like a repeat when I also looked at it in the agenda, but so this will be interesting.
Look like I just read it.
And Kim, are we okay to proceed with it being on the agenda for this evening or should we table it? Okay.
We apologize about the mix-up, but we are going to continue to move forward and we're going to discuss the survey information about departments. Dr. Doozy, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President, governing board members. Thank you for allowing me to present our district department surveys. All right, so the purpose of this presentation is to provide the board members and the community a global view and analysis of our 2025-2026 district department surveys, and then also share with the board and the community our next steps from leadership using this data. Oops. Going the wrong way, I think. I got it turned upside down. There we go. I think we're going to have a winner now, guys. Here we go. All right. So our survey data is definitely an important part of our strategic plan. It's the way that we're able to get perception data from our employees so that we can respond to many of our success criteria in our strategic plan. So kind of explaining a little bit of the why and the how, soliciting feedback, as I shared from our employees, is very important to allow all of our departments and our admin cabinet to review our employees' perspectives and use any trends to make future decisions. How we respond to the feedback directly impacts our capacity to provide that high-quality customer service directly to our employees. What is learned from the surveys will also be applied to the department level and as an admin cabinet. Areas of improvement are addressed using department scorecards to include measurable goals and action steps. In addition, the strengths found in the surveys are also used to celebrate with our departments and make sure that they know that these services are appreciated and to maintain those high scores based on employee perception. So last year, the surveys were given in April 2025. This year, we did it in May 2026, so same approximate timeline. We did get feedback on the way that we presented the surveys last year, that it was a lot of links that people had to click on separately, and then also those 3 open-ended questions were part of each individual link. And we got a lot of feedback from our employees that it was way too much and took way too much time and it was way too confusing. And so we took it back as an admin cabinet and really talked about how we could streamline the feedback. And just to remind the board and community that may be watching, our questions have remained the same on our department survey, but we have varied our templates. You know, we had one point used Studer, we also use Qualtrics, and then now we're using Google Form, which we used last year as well. So just really making sure that we provide the best participant experience so that people can really provide their honest feedback for us to act upon. So for this year, the specific changes we made is instead of thinking of all the surveys as separate links, we thought of the employees on what feedback would they have based on their experience as an employee. So basically, what departments provide customer service directly to a certain group of employees. So by doing this, we were able to only ask them to fill out one survey that incorporated all the departments that serve them, and then one time those 3 open questions, which is what's working well, what needs to be improved upon, and who has been helpful. So based on that, we thought about all of our employees across the district. I have a spreadsheet if you would like to look at it. I could put in a Friday update. But as an admin cabinet, we looked at all those different employee groups and we talked about what departments provide them directly customer service, that they could give feedback directly from their own personal experience, not something that they've heard about, not something that someone else has talked to them about, but honestly from the experience that they had, so that their perceptions represented their experience as an employee. So from that, we created 5 unique surveys. We launched them for these following groups. So there was one survey for all admin, council, and lead. Just to remind the board and community, admin council is all of our educational leaders and all of our operational leaders, as well as our principals. And lead is all of our principals, assistant principals, and all of our ed services department. So our instructional coaches at the district level, as well as any kind of educational director. Office managers were another unique employee group that deal with certain departments in a unique way compared to other employees. Registrars and attendance clerks also were a unique employee group based on their experience. Certified staff, and then classified staff. Oops. Oh, it's got a little delay to it, huh? Okay. So just to show you on the next couple slides, I'm not going to read all these to you, but I just want you to see that based on those 5 unique employee groups, these were the departments and the individuals that admin cabinet determined that would be who they would be giving direct feedback on based on their own experiences with those departments that give them direct customer service to do their job. So admin council lead, certified staff, office managers, registrars, and classified staff. So when we analyzed the participation over the years, I did go all the way back to 2018 and 2019. As you can see, we had 201 participants. I will share that currently we have just over 1,500 employees. I'm imagining 18, 19, probably a little less than that, but I don't have those numbers. I just know what we have now. So 2019, 2020, 264 participants, 2020, 2021, 207, 21, 22, 276, 23, 24, 302, 23, 24, 354, 24, 25 is 300, and then this most current survey was 427. I did want to make one comment on 24, 25 is I had to go back and estimate that. We had over 800 responses, but those responses could have been duplicated by the same exact employee because each survey was its own link, and we just allowed employees to pick whoever they wanted to give feedback to. So I did have a little asterisk there before, but I just did want to at least be honest that that data actually is something that I had to go back and approximate. But as you can see, definitely got more feedback from more employees of our just over 1,500 employees for their participation. I also say in the years that we used Studer, it was similar to that. You didn't know how many duplications, that might be how many participants, but the same participant could have filled it out for multiple departments. So I really believe if we continue at Litchfield to do the surveys in the way that we've established this year, we can really get an accurate count of exactly how many employees are participating in our department surveys. So these are the questions. They have not changed since 2018, 2019. So we asked them to rate accessibility, accuracy, attitude, operations, and timeliness. And I should comment too, it's a 5-point scale. It's strongly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree is the Likert scale for this survey. So I've given you a breakdown just of the last 3 years. And as you may remember or may not remember, we decided to start in 2024 because that was when Dr. Davidson, that would have been the first year as far as establishing a baseline for the department customer service, as he began to lead the district. So as you can see, 4.2 coincidentally is all the way across the board. That is not a mathematical mistake. I double checked the math. But as you can see, definitely an upward trend in that data overall. So now here I broke it up into the different departments, just like I shared with you based on those 5 unique employee groups. They had the opportunity to give feedback for the departments that they directly get customer service from. So again, same kind of comparison, 2024, 2025, and then of course the most recent spring 2026. Here's the next page of the other departments. And then I did want to point out this slide. CFO Vaughn asked me to do something a little different with this year's surveys. Prior, business office was basically grouped into 2 categories. One was business office payroll and finance. One was business office purchasing and warehouse, like together. And then there was no accounts payable. So this year we decided to separate them out since we were targeting those 5 unique employee groups. That really allowed us for those that have direct customer service with these departments to be able to give feedback. So for example, everyone has a paycheck. So, right? So everyone would give feedback on payroll, but not everyone may be dealing with accounts payable. Right? If I'm a classified maybe aide in the classroom, I might not have any idea who runs accounts payable. So I've never had that as a customer service as an employee. So I believe continuing to recommend to do it this way will really give CFO Vaughn's departments the ability to really break down the data and give, really look specifically at the customer service within each of those departments of the business office. Okay. So I'm going to pause just for a second and see if you guys have any questions so far on the way that the 5 unique surveys were created and implemented, and then any questions on the trend of the actual data for each department.
Mr. Mikes,
I don't have any right now. Thank you.
Mr. Owens,
Yeah, none yet. Thanks.
Okay.
Ms. Moran.
No, I have more questions on this part, so.
Okay, perfect. All right. So as I
Ms.
shared-
Wallace, did you have any
Oh,
questions?
I'm sorry. You're right.
No questions.
Okay, I don't even, go ahead, no
Okay.
question.
All right. So as I stated, and now on each of those 5 unique employee groups, all had the opportunity to give open-ended answers to what's working well, what needs to be improved upon, and who has been helpful. So these are the top trends, and I bolded the specific thematic analysis that I was able to pull out from the comments in this section from our different employee groups. I also broke this down by those 5 unique groups, just so you know, to help admin cabinet really know how to provide the best customer service based on that customer's role. But for tonight's purposes, I'm just giving you the global of all the themes across those 5 unique groups. So communication was actually the strongest theme, especially around responsiveness, transparency, proactive updates, and accessibility to both district leadership and departments. Transportation was also mentioned quite a few times. The significant positive improvement, particularly regarding proactive communications and that operational efficiency. Staff repeatedly highlighted strong supportive relationships and customer service for such departments as HR, payroll, purchasing, transportation, and special education. Collaboration and teamwork across departments and campuses emerged as a major strength, specifically citing things like being part of their guiding coalition or PLC or being part of a mentor, or just being part of a group that's trying to accomplish a goal. So that's what I'm defining as collaboration and teamwork. And then professional development opportunities was also a positive trend on what's working well. And then special ed leadership was also a trend in the data of what's working well for recognized as improving substantially from years past. So how if I go through the who's helpful and then I'll pause and then we'll do improvements? Okay. So this year I did break this data apart for you a little more. This is new. In the past, this was just something I shared with the departments because then they could give a rocket or a key out to staff and recognize them. I thought this data was really helpful to analyze as a district because when people specifically had to say how people were helpful, it really allowed to see some themes on how we treat each other and also the customer service that our departments are providing. So although I don't have the individual people up here that are being recognized, I did look for the themes of what people define as being helpful. So I thought it would be helpful information to have. So the first one is responsive and accessible support. This was actually the most frequent. When someone commented about how someone was helpful, it was specifically linked to the responsiveness, accessibility, approachability. And then just some highlights from that: quick turnaround for questions, availability during urgent matters, consistent follow-up when needed, and then the overall leadership, believing the leadership across our departments are approachable and willing to help. And then I just provided some comments just to give you some context and how this theme was developed, what kind of comments that would be categorized into this theme. Strong communication and collaboration. There were many responses, emphasize appreciation for leaders and teams to communicate clearly, proactively, and professionally. Strengths include transparent communication, cross-department collaboration, clear guidance and direction, and keeping staff informed. And then just that last comment there is just valuing the departments for their collaboration. There was a lot of things about our fireside chat that really, I think, helps instill this, is because we increase those fireside chats where all our department leaders are available for all of our principals and site leaders, and allows them to have really quick accessibility, which has been a really nice feature that we added. We added a few last year, and then this year we had so much positive feedback that we increased how often we do that with our leaders. And then expertise and problem solving was also commented on people that were helpful. So areas that were most frequently praised: HR, teaching and learning, technology, transportation, special ed, Title IX, and then finance and purchasing. So employees, when they gave someone a shout out or said they were helpful, they talked about, they gave me great guidance. They helped me navigate through a really difficult situation. They supported me. They gave me practical advice, things like that, that would link problem solving. And then commitment to student success. This was also a theme in talking about those that were helpful. So just really that recognition that students were the center of what's best, and supporting teacher growth, instructional practices, and then just that pursuit of continuous improvement. Like, my instructional coach really helped me get better at Kagan strategies in my classroom. Like things like that would be like examples of that commitment to student success to help my students be more engaged and learn. And then positive relationships and supportive culture. So this was a lot of the talk about, people talking a lot about their building leaders, but also department leaders, just talking about the professionalism, encouraging and uplifting, and just, just the feeling like people are valuing and caring for them. All right, so I'll pause there before we get started on the themes for what needs to be improved.
Mr. Mikes,
Nothing for me yet, thanks.
Mr. Owens,
Nothing, thanks.
Ms. Moran.
Okay, I'm going to ask a few questions now because maybe I should have asked them before, but
That's
anyway,
okay.
here we are. Okay, so participation wise, we have 427 staff members out of 1,500, so a little less than a third of that. What do you anticipate that does to the fidelity of the data? So like historically, there was a time that we had some what I would call toxic positivity going on in this district. And although I love the numbers and I love that everything's improving from a statistical standpoint, from the 1 through 5 standpoint, to tell me more about what we can do to get more participation, which I think would help with the fidelity of the information as well. But you tell me what your thoughts are on that.
Sure. So to kind of tackle your first question about the number, right? Kind of that, just that processing with alongside of everyone about it is obviously 1,500 employees is a far off number to 400. So even though that still is statistically significant as far as being able to use it as good survey results, I do agree with you, getting more employees to give their voice. One of the trends I did see, and this is not scientific by any means, but this go around, because I was looking at the surveys as it was coming in and make sure everything was working. And then first initial surveys were actually much lower. So what I observed is the first people that filled out the survey may have been the ones waiting for the opportunity to give some feedback, critical feedback, because they maybe weren't happy with their experience. And then as the survey continued to be open, then you saw the trend line improve. So then those that maybe their principal set up a time for them to take the survey, or their department leads, survey. Then you started seeing those scores come up as far as averages. So as far as getting more people to take the survey, we have the employees with us. So if we can figure out a way to operationalize and a better participation, I think it's ideal. And one of the things, the way that we did the survey this year, we're actually able to see by those 5 unique groups where our lower participation was. And so, and I will say classified staff was one of the lower individuals that participated comparatively. So to the other departments. So, so I think.
Yeah, do you think that's a matter of their supervisors maybe not allowing time for that?
Perhaps, if they're in the classroom all day and all they have is a lunch break, do they have access to technology? So really digging in deep now that we know who those, even though the departments don't, just so you know, I kept my commitment and admin cabinet's commitment that we aggregated the data back together. And so departments can't tell what unique employee group it comes from, but Dr. Davidson and I can. We can see the 5 unique. So now that we know that, we can see who didn't participate and dig into the why. Did they not have time in their schedule? Do they need to stay in clocked in for a little longer to be able to participate? Did they not have readily accessible to a computer? It was in English and Spanish, but is there some other barrier that's, keeping them from even knowing the survey is there to knowing that it is translated? But if they don't even know it's there, then they're not going to have access to it. So I really hope that understanding now who did and did not participate by those 5 unique groups, we can really tackle and get bigger participation, because it would be great to even be at 50%, right? Because I think that would be a much better, much stronger statistical significance when we're looking at trend lines. So.
For sure. And we don't want to make it mandatory, because then you're going to get some garbage in there, right?
Mhm.
So you do want to hear from people who have a bone to pick,
Yeah.
and those who have something, a praise, to provide as
Yeah.
well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So
Marianne, can I, sorry. it's like
Yes, no,
Big
go
old
ahead.
voice. Can I just add to that as well? I think one of the things that I've been proud of over the last few years is just our ability to take this information, share it with our team members, and talk about how it impacts the daily of those employee groups. And I do think the more we do that in our apple pie tours and when we're in front of our staff members, so that they realize that their voice does matter, I do think that'll continue to increase the participation when people realize we do something about what they say, whether good or bad.
yeah, I totally agree with that.
Mhm.
And I think that like you're saying, I think in the past, there's been speculation of, I don't want to give feedback for fear of some sort of retribution. And I think the longer this administration has been in place and you have built those relationships of trust to say, we really do want your feedback because we want to get better. We want to have that cycle of continuous improvement. So I have another question. What was there anything else you wanted to say about the participation piece, Dr. Duthie?
No, I think as long as did that
no.
answer your questions? Okay,
Yes, I'm good
perfect.
with that. My other question is about the 3 open-ended part, right? So what do we think about the fidelity of that information? Meaning, if they only had one opportunity, but they had multiple departments they wanted to mention, do we think we're maybe not getting as much feedback? Or I know you were saying that the previous version was like too many open-ended questions. So what do you think about what you're seeing with that piece and the fidelity?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I will tell you that I do believe it limited the open-ended feedback, because how could it not, right? Because but also I think you had more people participating, and what they did recognize that what's working well and what needs to be improved is on the top of their own mind, right? In their current role. So it might not be as much data, but maybe it is their highest theme of their own experience that they're reporting, because they're not having to think of something for transportation and technology and, so they're filling out the survey, they're thinking about all these departments because it was just one question after another for each department that that serves them.
Okay.
And then at the very end, so it really was whatever was atop of their mind to write. And they did write. So,
Okay.
there were people that spent a lot of time writing multiple things, but there were people that just wrote one good, one improve, a couple people who were helpful.
Okay.
So,
So do we think, because that sounds like then, yeah, you're kind of saying what's top of mind to me now. It's
Mhm.
not very likely you would have a note from last September that you were holding on to. So would it be helpful at all to get more quality feedback if we did the survey more than once a year to not to the students and all that, but
Yeah.
this particular survey?
Yeah, absolutely. We could. We were just actually talking today about having some type of measurement for belonging. And we were talking about maybe adding an additional survey question, and then how could we maybe gauge that at the beginning of the year and then measure, those action steps that leaders are trying to build belonging, which is also attached to employee perception of their employee, their experience at work, their engagement at work, right? So how can we maybe do a pre and a post? So.
Okay. Okay. And I want to get to what needs improved because that's more my
Yes.
jam. But the only other thing I want to say is that the special education has been a specific focus of the board and of Dr. Davidson. So I'm extremely pleased to see that that is improving, and that was a big deal for us. So obviously you're going to put that on the information that we're getting here for your evaluation coming up too. So, okay, that's all my questions
Yeah.
for now.
Thank you.
Ms. Wallace, did you have any questions or comments?
I did not have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Ms. Moran stole my thing about special education. Mr. Coyne, you're obviously doing a really great job in that department, and having such a big jump in your first year, that sometimes doesn't happen, right? When you see a shakeup with things, and sometimes people are unhappy that first year. So to see that that has increased so dramatically is a true testament to him and to our team over here that picked him to take over. So kudos to them.
Yes, I agree. Definitely a success. All right. So again, open-ended responses, what needs to be improved. Communication and transparency was the top theme. So it really centered around concerns with delay responses to emails and calls, lack of proactive communication, inconsistent messaging between departments, meaning things like I heard this from one department leader, but when I asked another department leader, I got a different answer. Limited transparency around decisions, budget, staffing, and procedures, and the need for clear expectations and follow through. Another theme was specifically about in regards to the service from human resources and payroll concerns. References, comments included things like slow response times, confusing or inconsistent information, payroll inaccuracies, concerns with professionalism and employee treatment, and lack of clarity regarding contracts, raises, paid time off, and compensation structures. Staff support, morale, and respect. Some of those common concerns included things like feeling undervalued or unheard, which if they filled out the survey, they're already being heard, but need for stronger support systems, concerns about morale, frustration regarding decision-making, disconnection from classroom realities. And a lot of that frustration decision-making had a lot to do with CSAs as well. Desire for greater trust, collaboration, and visible leadership presence. Another theme was budget, staffing, and resource allocation. Concerns included budget reductions and staffing decisions, larger class sizes, which was interesting to me because that was not what the board voted for, but I'm thinking it was because of the tightening of enrollment that we did agree upon. Surplus processes, surpluses is like when you collapse one position, what happens to that person? And we didn't have a lot of surplus, so I was really surprised how often this was mentioned to emerge as a theme, but I think it was their colleagues advocating as well. So resource limitations, construction timing, and campus upkeep. This was specifically about things like the Verigy work, the solar panels, disrupting the parking lot, the flow, really thinking, was there a better way to do that? And desire for greater fiscal transparency and planning. So just around budgeting, which we all know, we've learned from this year's experience, and we do have plans for ahead. So professional development training. This was also an area that our staff asked us to make improvements to. More meaningful and applicable professional development, better technology training, cross-campus collaboration opportunities, more teacher voice in curriculum and instructional decisions. There were still a lot of comments about the process that for supplemental approval. That was kind of what this was about. Improved onboarding and system training for new staff was also something that they considered part of training, like as you get to the new district, just that process, wanting it to be improved. Safety facilities and maintenance, delayed maintenance responses, campus cleanliness, facility upkeep, construction disruptions, safety systems like the walkie-talkie, Centegix. As you know, we were struggling at Centegix at the beginning of the year with some of the screen takeovers. We worked with the company, got that remedied, but it did take some time. So, I mean, there was some frustration there. HVAC, leaks, plumbing, and campus ground concerns. The ground concerns really rotated a lot around the field conditions. Technology system was another area that our employees are asking for us to look at to make improvements. So internet reliability, devices and printers. And as you guys know, we've been working on both of those with some real good solutions coming around the corner. Parent Square account confusion, technology support responsiveness, and then system training needs, specific things like Synergy, Promethean boards, Duo, where they have to log in and, it sends another alert. There were still people that were confused about that process. And then a big theme was CSA, assessment and testing, many comments, excessive testing concerns, CSA relevance and usefulness, loss of instructional time, misalignment with curriculum and state testing, and then inconsistent implementation practices. What that last bullet means is some schools were pulling small groups to give the CSA, some classes, the littler people, they were doing it one-on-one. So they're just, just wanting it to be consistent. We weren't using the data for comparison this year, but that is something that we'll need to look on in the future when we do want to compare it. So all that data, now what are we going to do with it, right? And so this is just some really high-level action steps. So as I shared with you, is each of our department leaders have a scorecard. And so their scorecard will have specific goals that they want to accomplish for their department next year. And then they'll have specific action steps. So some of these things will be goals on their own, standing with specific action steps. And some of these are just plain old action steps, right? That they're going to take to improve our employees' experience. So, so that's the number one action step right there, is we are going to make sure our departments focus on those places they need to make those improvements. So continue to work and develop internal website for staff with those standard operating procedures. We have a website right now with standard operating procedures, just to continue to build that up and reinforce it as a place to go. Continue the fireside chats. As I mentioned earlier, we bring all the department leads and our site leaders together, and they can sign up. Sometimes they get signed up to go see a certain leader, but it really has helped that face-to-face communication on a set routine. And then onboarding and training adjustments for new teacher induction. We're actually retitling it Welcome Week. Some of the feedback on that onboarding piece that we've gotten is we just give our new teachers way too much at one time. So we're really prioritizing the things that they really need to know to start that first day of school. Continue to work with the new teacher mentoring, building out the year 2 of mentorship with our National Board Certified Guiding Coalition, which I've already shared with you before. They're the folks that are doing the CSA work to look at those assessments, to realign those and to make sure we address the concerns from teachers about those assessments. We're currently exploring a change in structure for the Superintendent's Advisor Council to be more advisory, allowing voices and decisions. So currently it's a place where staff can bring concerns to get questions, but really not, this is what we want to try, or this is what we want to do, or this is what we're thinking, what do you think, and being a true voice from the field. So I know Dr. Davidson and Ms. Contra have been working on that format to really make it more of a decision-making body to help with morale. The value proposition of Superintendent's Advisory Council, back to teacher organization and back to school training for all members. The value proposition for Superintendent Advisory Council, we also did it with our AMBA Council, basically just looking at what do we say yes to as a district for budgetary needs and what do we say no to? And if we don't know what our value is that we bring our students beyond the Litchfield learner, right? Because you can pretty much attach everything to the Litchfield learner. But what is it that we stand for? Do we stand for interventions? Do we stand for career exploration? Like, so what are things that make us more strategic when we're making budget decisions on what we really need to keep and what we may need to let go of because it doesn't quite align. So I don't know, Mr. Vaughn, if you wanted to elaborate on that, if I explain that, because I know you led that work and I don't want to misspeak.
Sure. It's really starting the process of getting feedback on one of the things we started to talk about during the budget process, which was what is our value proposition to families? Why would a family choose to send their child to one of our schools versus another public school option or another school choice or education option? And so the exercise we did really just challenged those in the room, but also gave space for those in the room to think about what that really is. And so our hope is to do that exercise with a number of groups to try to get varied feedback to identify what that is at a district level. Very similar to how we got varied feedback when we were identifying and defining the Litchfield learner, right? And the hope is once you're able to really articulate what our value proposition is to families, I think you'll see just close to never ending value to that work. I think it can help us when we're talking to prospective families because we really know what I mean, not that we don't know what we're offering, but we know what we're really trying to have be what we're known for. But also when you get to a point where you're needing to make budget decisions, it's a filter that you can put decisions through to begin prioritizing because similar to the Litchfield learner, our strategic plan is great, but you can tie almost anything that a school district does to some point in our strategic plan. So this is going to even one more level of depth, saying what's our primary strategy, if you will, for attracting families and providing that education that we're ultimately trying to provide through building the Litchfield learner and those things. I hope that makes sense.
And why we decided as admin cabinet to put this as a really important action step is one of the feedback that we're getting is the lack of transparency and understanding how budget decisions are made and how we prioritize things. So by really having an agreed upon value proposition that we can lean into and we can really build that common language when we talk about what is being kept and this is why, and what we may have to cut and this is why, as it doesn't align. So it just gives us a strategy to use to not only make the decisions, but to also explain the why. Thank you. Okay, staff morale, build the belonging on a value initiative next year. As I shared, the scorecards are going to have, we're still working out all the nuances of it, but we are going to have some type of belonging goal for our leaders next year to continue to build our believe, belong, become. And then we're going to analyze the organization of the use of hubs. Confusing information found in duplicate places, but different, like that feedback. What we learned is our hubs sometimes don't have aligned information. So we're really going to drain. And what the hubs are is they're basically individual Google Docs that are created by, this one's for behavior coaches, this one's for psychologists, this one's for principals. And so there's different hubs. And our wonder is if maybe we could use those standard operating procedure website versus the hubs. That way it's one place that everyone's going to. So, but something that we're going to dig in deeper with admin cabinet as well as our leaders at our sites and our department leaders. And then improve operation director visibility by hosting monthly meetings on school campuses. I know Dr. Stone added that as a really important action step. That way, not only are they getting what needs to get done with his operations team, but they're also on a campus and have that visibility. And then utilize site admin in a monthly operation directors meeting for current feedback on what's going well and what improvements would benefit school sites. So again, that opportunity that we kind of talked about where this is currently one opportunity that you do one open-ended question. Well, this is an opportunity when the operation directors are on those campuses, they can actually get that right there, verbally to make improvements and not have to wait for a survey. And then track FMX tickets monthly by school and district to improve communication and completion times. You notice in the themes it talked about like delayed responses, delayed fixing things. And so doing this type of audit and keeping on top of those tickets monthly will really help us make sure we're providing the best customer service. Did you want to add anything else, Dr. Stone, to those action steps? Okay. All right, so that's just an overview of the action steps. I actually could probably stand up here a lot longer. Dr. Davidson had me take off 2 slides, so, but I at least wanted to give you some examples of what might be on a department lead's scorecard and their action steps based on the feedback from our employees. So I will stand for any questions.
Mr. Mikes?
I don't really have any questions. I mean, just because it was laid out very well, it's just like, here's the survey. This is the process for it. This is how we try to reach, to get our information back. And this is how we digest it and where we go with it. What I would have to say is, what I do appreciate in the end is, of course, all those, I mean, we have 2 pages of action items from it, but I appreciate that piece because you look at the trends of it, and a lot of it is a lot of those pieces are trending up, right? And in success of everything. It seems to me, once again, it's this cycle of we take it in, we have those action steps. Obviously, from prior years when we have those action steps, we're following through with those. Otherwise, we wouldn't see, or in my perspective, we wouldn't see the growth happening. And so once again, it's nice to know that we're just not saying we heard you and here's 2 pages of it, but we have history of this is what we really are going to do, not just what we're saying, if that makes sense. And so
Absolutely.
I appreciate how it's all packaged up. And once again, in just in the Litchfield way, in our pursuit of just getting better each time, we just not to be stagnant. We just continue to look for ways to be better and to improve. So I appreciate all those pieces with it. And I'm sorry about your last 2 slides that got knocked off.
Thank you.
Mr. Owens?
Yeah, I still don't have any questions. None of this ever surprises us. It's interesting how, well, this is what we do really well, and this is what people say we don't do well, right? Like, oh, we get feedback and I'll appreciate it, and then other people like don't get enough feedback and delay it. So I think the average scores show and reflect that we're doing a better job than we're not. Also, with certain things, people like to armchair decisions that they don't have all the information. I do it with my own company, right? Like, why did you do that? I don't know all the information, but like board member Mike's said, I think the important part is to take this feedback and find ways to, improve the scores by actually making decisions that impact, as opposed to just trying to hide the scores, but actually improve the day-to-day of of our staff. And so with that, I just appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Ms. Moran?
Yes. Okay. So it seems to me that a lot of the feedback could be boiled down to expectations, right? One party has an expectation of a certain response time, let's say, and the other party doesn't respond during that time. So how are we with communicating that? Like, do we have, taglines on emails that say, I will do my best to get back to you within 48 hours? Or, it seems like there is maybe some sort of disconnect. So I guess I'm just thinking out loud, like, I'm not really giving you a specific suggestion on what to
No,
do about
yeah.
that, but how do we improve that communication really on better aligning expectations?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I don't believe any of us have on our email signatures that, no. So I do know we verbally said, 24 to 48 hours, but are we honoring ourselves with that?
Yes.
Right? If we really want to provide the best quality service, that doesn't always mean the fastest customer service, right?
Exactly.
And so, yeah, you make a good point is maybe we need to be clear with the time that our department leads need to really do that quality job and what employees could expect. And then, yeah, you're exactly right. We verbalize it, but I don't think there's anything written. But that's something we can definitely bring back and talk about what's reasonable.
Because I also think we need to be careful with that, because I'm someone in my personal life that I'm not going to text you back immediately. That's just not what you're going to get from me. So people who know me know that, and they're like, okay, yeah, fine. She'll get back to me when she can.
Yeah.
But today it seems as though most people want an immediate response to something. And that just isn't reasonable, because if you don't want someone to be getting an immediate response or expect that from you, you also shouldn't expect that from someone else. So I don't know. I just think that's probably some sort of cultural nuance we could address that might add more empathy is too strong of a word, but more understanding as to why things may not be happening. I understand under urgent matters and things like that, that would be a different story.
That's a great point. Thank you.
So also, my question is, that wasn't really a question before. This question is, how are we providing verification to employees that what they are communicating for feedback, whether that's on the survey or anytime throughout the year? Because obviously, if you have an interaction with someone, you're going to know what that kind of is at that point in time. How are we communicating that we're hearing that and potentially actually doing the continuous improvement, as opposed to, oh, now we have your feedback, and so now we're going to come up with these action steps? Because clearly department heads and anyone providing customer service is going to be getting feedback all along the way. Is there a standard way, or have our folks been trained in saying, I hear what you're saying, that's great feedback, I'm going to take that into consideration? Like, do we have some of that from a training standpoint, from a customer service side?
We have done customer service training, and any of my cabinet members can add in as well, but we have done customer service training, but I don't know if it exactly mirrors what you're talking about. I do know we could do a better job, as Dr. Davidson said, sharing with our staff, hey, this, and we try to at Apple Pie Tours, but my wonder is that enough, right? We've been on campus all day, we're feeding them pie and ice cream, is that the time that they're really, it's on their dashboard to go, oh yeah, they listened to me on my survey, and so yeah, that's a great point, and something that we definitely could make sure, maybe through our dashboard on our website. I mean, there's lots of ways that we could convey that, I believe, better.
But that's also the really challenging part, right? Is part of what was the feedback is the visibility piece from leadership. And we have a lot of schools, and everyone likes to go as a team and all of this. So it's like impossible to be in all those places at the same time and do that as well as we would like to do.
Maybe if we're more clear with the expectation is, you can expect to see your district leaders X amount of time.
Yes.
right? That we're committing to be visible and there and, you
Yeah.
know.
And explaining behind that, the reason you don't see us once a week is we
Mhm.
have all these campuses to go to. And
Mhm.
by the way, we have all these other things at the district level that we're doing.
Mhm.
So yeah, maybe like a day in the life of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, all those things can be brainstormed later. But can you tell me more about the fireside chats and specifically who is going to those and what does that look like?
Sure, sure. Dr. Benjamin, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. Fireside chats actually came from a conference that we had attended, and it was something that they were utilizing. And we tweaked it to make it our own. What we do is we have a sign up sheet for all of our leaders. So operational leaders and district office have a table. They set up a time. Principals can sign up to talk with them. So if it's something about student information and they're needing something from our director of student information, they're going to schedule that time. And it's in 15-minute increments. They can pick 2 slots to have 30 minutes if they need to. And the directors can also schedule time with the principal. So if they're needing to talk to somebody, then they have that opportunity as well. And it's really just allowing face-to-face time once a quarter that you have individualized attention for those people to be able to ask questions that really pertain maybe just to their department or just their campus. And it's not for the good of the order for everybody.
Okay, so it's more of an individual problem solving that each of those leaders might have.
Yep.
Okay.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
So Sandy and I have taken significant advantage of the fireside chats. So two of the ways for the past 2 years we've used the fireside chats that I would say has been very efficient is we use the fireside chats to hand out initial staffing allocations so that we can meet with every principal and have a 15-minute individualized conversation with each one. Also, it's how we got individualized budget proposal feedback from the principals during the budget process. The fireside chat structure is what allowed us to do that with the principals this past year, whereas in the past, there had been an expectation that the principal's ideas for budget came up through their supervisor, just because how we met with the individual directors of departments, there just wasn't enough time to do that individually with each principal. And so the fireside chats, just like Dr. Benjamin had shared, goes both ways. So we've certainly used it when we need to talk to the principals and other leaders, but they certainly can also use it if they need to talk to us. So it's a very efficient structure.
Well, and what I like about that in that particular context about the principals providing feedback on budget is and staffing is you avoid the groupthink. Because then you're hearing directly what they think and they're not being influenced by someone who they've been friends with for 20 years who might have a different scenario.
That's right. You also benefit from maybe if someone's not necessarily interested in speaking up in front of everyone else. It really is just me and Sandy and that person. And so I do think you also get a wider variety of feedback and ideas, even beyond the avoidance of the groupthink. But yes.
And what's great too is you're not getting tangled in schedules because it's already a committed time that everyone has dedicated their calendar to being there. So you don't have to figure out when this person's available or that person, we're all available. So.
And that happens once a quarter. So the expectation is worst case scenario, I'm going to be able to get a face-to-face with this person at X date. Okay. Okay, great.
Ms. Moran, if I could add to that, the other thing that, feedback that I think many of us have received throughout some cases, long careers, but also from our team here is if we're going to ask you to give of your time, it has to be really meaningful. And so we've worked hard, from our professional development scenarios, from lead and admin council to make those meetings meaty and worthwhile. And so with the fireside chat, our leaders have, in many cases, choice. They decide how they want to build their schedule to get the answers to the questions they have. And in some cases, like Mr. Vaughn shared, we do monopolize and say, no, we need to see you at a specific time. But I hope to think that our leaders appreciate having that choice and really allowing them to navigate their calendars as they see best fit.
Excellent. The last thing that I will say is based on this, this is the first time I'm seeing this presentation, but based on what I'm seeing here, I'm getting the feeling that maybe one of Dr. Davis's goals is coming to the surface for next year for me, which is potentially focusing on what most companies would call their intranet. So like the SOPs, the hubs, potentially also enveloping in there some PD, some of the new teacher trainings and mentoring and all of that. I feel like maybe we need to do a better job with the resources that we're providing to our staff and spend some time and resources internally on that to strengthen that. There could be something to that. So we'll continue that discussion at our retreat this summer.
Ms. Wallace, did you have any comments or questions?
I don't have any questions. I just appreciate that we survey all of our employees in all the various departments to get their feedback and that we value that feedback to make positive change. That's all.
I don't have any questions either. I feel the same as the rest of the board in that it's nice to see the positive trajectory of our scores. And I do agree that we did have some toxic positivity going on, but I don't feel like that's the case now. I also think it's interesting how some of our things that are our wins are also our not wins, but that's common, right? We see that all the time because people think it's an emergency because you didn't get back to me within 5 minutes, but it's probably not. But it was really important to that person. So I'm not going to say that what they're going through and what they're experiencing isn't important. It's just, it might not be an emergency like they think it is. But I do appreciate that everybody is taking the time to fill it out. I love that we're seeing a growth in the number of people that are doing it. I would also like to see those numbers increase, but I do get that actually that's considered a pretty significant number of people to do a survey. I think there's definitely some good information for us when we do our planning for goals and things like that for next year. What if we send out this presentation to all our staff? That's a way that they can see, like, you're presenting it here. They might not watch this meeting. They're on break. They don't care right now, and that's good for them. But if we sent this to them, at least it's there and they can see that we are looking at it. We as a board are talking about it. So it's important to us and it's important to you guys enough to show here's what are our wins, here are our not wins overall globally, so that they'll see that we are doing something about it. And maybe that will help with getting more and more people to do the survey if they see that. And I think we should send it out to them every year. That's just my only feedback. So.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. We'll definitely take that back to admin cabinet and talk about what that might look like.
Okay. Thank you so much for your presentation. We're going to miss you when you're not giving these to us
I think
anymore.
this is my last one. So
What? You don't have something for her to give to us next month?
Madam
Okay.
President, I did say on the way over that we were going to start formulating our plans for June. Yes, ma'am. So
Okay. Okay.
hang tight.
all right, so maybe not.
Okay.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Yes. Thank you. With that, guys, we are all done. So
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
having a motion from Mr. Owens and a second from Mr. Mikes, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Mikes?
Yay.
Mr. Owens?
Yay.
Ms. Moran?
Yay.
Ms. Wallace?
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes. Thank you for joining us tonight, guys.